Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the College Football Pregame Show. This is ACC week. We're going to do a full conference preview and full season picks. If you want to skip to the picks, timestamp should be showing for that. We're going to get straight into the preview. We're going to do our power rankings. There's 17 teams in this conference, so we're not going to have as much time as usual. So blame the commissioner if you don't like that your team didn't get enough time. Starting all the way at the bottom at number 17 is none other than the North Carolina Tar Heels. I know they're being coached by Bill Belichick, but I was not on the Belichick train when he started in North Carolina. I'm definitely not on it now. I'm just really not too terribly excited as to the roster as a whole. There is a bit of a quarterback battle going on. You got Billy Edwards, who has played, but it was 2 years ago, versus Miles O'Neal, who does not have really any starting experience. The rest of the offense is pretty mediocre at best. I do really like Melkart Abujode. I'm sorry if I said that name wrong. With 10.5 sacks last year and 47 tackles on the D-line, one of the most impressive defensive linemen in the conference. But the linebackers and safeties on the other end of the defense are definitely a big concern. The corners aren't exceptional either. And, of course, Bill Belichick is head coach, former a lot of Super Bowls, champion head coach for the New England Patriots. I just don't think college football in 2026 is the right game for that kind of coach. Even if he was really good in his prime as an NFL head coach, we might just be a little bit past it now. Maybe he'll prove me wrong, maybe not. We'll see. Going to number 16, we have the Stanford Cardinal. They weren't very good. They haven't been good really since they joined the ACC. They weren't great for a while in the Pac-12 before they joined the ACC. They do, however, have incoming head coach Tavita Pritchard, who is the quarterback coach for the Washington Commanders. I've heard a lot of good things about him from a lot of reputable coaches, especially even on the Commanders staff, players who he has coached. But I don't think he has very much of a roster. The defense is pretty atrocious. The only real standout player I saw was Matt Rose at linebacker, who had a whopping 106 tackles. So he might be able to at least carry the linebacker room, but the secondary and the D-line are not impressive. Their quarterback is Davis Warren, who you might have fuzzy memories of that name. He was the quarterback for the first 9 games of the 2024 season for the Michigan Wolverines before he was benched for high turnover percentage. So he will be quarterback at Stanford. It's really undecided as to whether or not he's going to be any good. You can't really predict this because he hasn't played. He didn't play almost at all last year. He was a backup for Michigan. So we'll see what he can do. Moving to number 15, Boston College, which is honestly kind of high for how they've been playing usually, all the way up at number 15 in the conference is the Boston College Eagles. Bill O'Brien has been on the hot seat for pretty much since the first couple games of last season. They finished 2-10. It was not a very impressive showing. They have Mason McKenzie, the incoming quarterback, who was at Division II Saginaw Valley. His completion percentage was only 55%, which is not good, especially at D2. However, he didn't throw a single interception as the year-long starting quarterback. They have Evan Dickens at running back, who rushed for 1,300 yards at Liberty. They have this team just has so many transfers that could be really good, but could also not be very good at the ACC level. They've got the FCS receiver Reed Swanson, who did receive for 900 yards last season. On the defense, everything is bad. I wrote down in my notes, bad D-line, and then I looked at the linebackers and wrote, linebackers. And I looked at the corners and wrote, corners. And then I looked at the safeties and wrote, safeties. So bad everything. So not at all impressed with the D-line. On the one standout is KP Price at safety with 93 tackles last season. Should be pretty good. I just don't think he has any help. So, as usual, not too optimistic for Boston College. At number 14, we've got the Wake Forest Demon Deacons. They have transferred Gio Lopez, expected to be the starting quarterback. He was at South Alabama, was incredible, then played a season under Bill Belichick last year at North Carolina, and now he is a couple miles over in Wake Forest. I guess it's like, aren't they like a county or two over? I don't know. So I'm excited to see what he can do. He's been a pretty good quarterback, threw for 1,700-ish yards last year. The offense is pretty average. The front seven of the defense seem pretty mediocre. The secondary is my real concern, because outside of Devon Patterson with 80 tackles, which is good but not like exceptional at safety, they really don't have anything in the secondary. So it's definitely a big concern for me. Jake Dickert, on the other hand, has been a very good coach. Came in, took a program that had just gone 4-8, then had a rough year one, went 4-8, and then bounced back, went 9-4. So he'll probably be able to do pretty well even with a bad roster. But he seems to me like more of a roster builder coach than on the field coach, and it doesn't look like he's built much of a roster this year. So it's a concern. I'm going to rank Wake Forest all the way down at 14. The number 13, I'll have the Cal Golden Bears, who were better than expected last year, including what turned out to not be that much of an upset win over Penn State in Week 4, resulting in the hiring of James Franklin, who we'll get to later in this of James Franklin, who we'll get to later in this video. They do have returning quarterback Jaron Sagapolutele, who was incredible, threw for 3,400 yards, was just ridiculously good for Cal, who had not been good in quite some time. But he is back. Then Chase Hendricks, the 1,000-yard receiver from Ohio, also very exciting. I'd like to see what he can do. And another interesting transfer is Darian Thomas, who received for 500 yards as a tight end in New Mexico. So he should be pretty good. The defense is my big concern here and why they are not very high ranked after I've been glazing their offense for probably about 30 or 45 seconds now. The stats are just terrible all around. It's just awful. Tosh Lapoy, however, is a really good hire in my opinion. He was the defensive coordinator under Dan Lanning at Oregon, so I'm pretty excited to see what he can do. Shouldn't be a terrible season for Cal this year. Now at number 12 is the Duke Blue Devils, who are the defending conference champions somehow through some tiebreaker shenanigans last year. They did not end up making the playoffs. They still have Manny Diaz at head coach, so he was pretty good last year. They have incoming transfer. Manny Diaz has been pretty good most of his career at Duke. They have Walker Eget, incoming transfer at quarterback, threw for 3,000 yards at San Jose State. Very good. Nate Shepard's a good running back with 1,100 rushing yards last season. They do have a pair of really, really good defensive players in Luke Murgott at linebacker with 91 tackles and Deshaun Stone at safety with 86. Very good players there. I just don't know if they have enough depth behind them to really break out this year. But overall, Duke is probably the most solid team we've gotten to so far for sure. Now, at number 11, I'm going to have the Syracuse Orange under head coach Fran Brown, who is one of my favorite coaches in college football. He seems to me like almost like a college football Mike Tomlin. I was against that firing, if you're curious. He's got a gritty mentality. Is usually pretty consistent. I'm kind of confused as to what happened last year. The roster wasn't too terrible, but the season wasn't great, so I'm really not sure what happened. I'm assuming he'll be able to right the ship. The defense is pretty average. It's not great, but it's also not terrible, so they should be able to crack 5 wins just with having a not awful defense. And the offense is pretty exciting. Steve Angeli is the starting quarterback, and I really like him because they picked him over Amari Odom, who I thought for sure was going to get the starting job, was an incredible quarterback at Kennesaw State. So the fact that they picked Steve Angeli over Amari Odom means that he's probably also pretty darn good. And they also have transfer Amon Miller, who rushed for 1,000 yards at the FCS level. A lot of FCS transfers. Last year, those were pretty up and down, but this could be one of the hits from the grabbing portal players out of the FCS and Division II levels. Now, at number 10, we have the North Carolina State Wolfpack. They're pretty average overall. I don't have too much to say about them. Dave Doran is in year 15 as the head coach there. And I do like C.J. Bailey at quarterback, threw for 3,100 yards last year. Overall, they should be pretty solid, probably make a bowl game, maybe 7 wins. That's kind of it. Number 9 is the Florida State Seminoles. Now, yeah, this is always going to be one of the more controversial teams, no matter what you say about them. Let me give you a little history recap as to what's happened to this program. They went 13-0 in, I believe, the 2023 season, and were kept out of the college football playoffs. They won their conference championship, didn't lose a game, were kept out. In my opinion, that's what destroyed them as a program. So Mike Norvell has proceeded to go 2-10 with Florida State the next season. Went 5-7. Oh, including a loss to none other than my Memphis Tigers, which was really fun at the time because we didn't know that they were trash. They were only 0-3 at the time. Then went 5-7 last year. Really not good. And I don't think it's going to be too terribly much better this year, although I think there's definitely some improvement. Ashton Daniels is the incoming quarterback transfer from Auburn, and he did pretty all right last year. I also like Quintravion Wisner transferring in. He was the backup, or I guess not the backup. He got plenty of playing time. He was rotation running back 2 at Texas last season, so I do really like seeing what he can do in an RB1 role. Then there's Deuce Robinson, received for 1,000 yards. I'd like to see what he can do. Again, the concern this time is the defense. They do have Mandrell Dezen has 7 sacks on the D-line. It's the rest of the defense that's pretty concerning. They have not an impressive linebacker room. The secondary isn't too much better. So I'm just not seeing them breaking out again. But I don't think they'll be too terrible just because the offense is so good. Next up, we got the Pittsburgh Panthers. They had a bit of a situation at quarterback last year. Eli Holstein was the quarterback, started the first 3 games, and then about 3 quarters, halfway through the 4th quarter, I believe, of the 3rd game of the season, their starting quarterback, Eli Holstein, was benched. He had been having a pretty rough performance. Mason Heinschel was put in, closed the game out pretty solid. They decided to give him the starting job for the rest of the season. And he did pretty good, threw for 2,500 yards. And he is back. He's the starting quarterback again this year. They got a pretty average offense and defense. Not too much to say here. It's just that their high floor should prevent any catastrophic collapses. So I don't think they'll be terrible by any means. And they could definitely even do pretty good. So I'm ranking them right in the middle at number 8. I also like head coach Pat Narduzzi. He's been the coach since 2014, so clearly he's just got that consistency that you want to have. Now, number 7 is the Louisville Cardinals. Louisville has Jeff Brom at head coach. He's been pretty good for them. And the roster they got this year is they got Lincoln Kienholz, was the backup quarterback at Ohio State last season. Backups at blue blood schools tend to either be really good when they get their own starting job or really mid. So I'm curious to see how that turns out. They also got Isaac Brown at running back, rushed for 884 yards last season, very nice. Trey Richardson, incoming transfer at wide receiver, received 800 yards at Vandy. The defensive line I also really like. They've got 2 defensive linemen with 7 or more sacks. And Cohen Enringer I might have said his name wrong, sorry if I did, was a safety, got 73 tackles at Iowa. So just really balanced team, and I like that. They could end up being really good, be one of the contenders in the conference, but they're definitely at least going to be pretty solid, so I'm ranking them at number 7. Number 6, I have the SMU Mustangs. They've got Rhett Lashley at head coach. The offense, you got Kevin Jennings at quarterback, threw for 3,600 yards last year. They got Kendrick Raphael at 950 yards rushing. The rest of the offense is pretty okay. I really like the secondary. I think the corners and safeties are really solid. So overall, it's just a good team, like most of the teams at the top level of this conference. So I'm ranking them at number 6. Now at number 5, we've got the Ramblin' Wreck. It's the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets. They have really improved as a program in the last few years, particularly under Brent Key. They've been pretty good. They've got Alberto Mendoza. His big brother Fernando did pretty well at Indiana, you could say, last season. He was the backup. Now he's transferred to Georgia Tech. So I think he should end up being pretty good. They also got Justice Haynes at running back. I don't know what it is with Georgia Tech and people named Haynes. Justice Haynes is not related to former running back Jamal Haynes, who has also no connection with former quarterback Haynes King, all spelled the same. I don't know. I also really like the linebacker room. I think there's a lot of depth. I think there's a lot of standout players that I really like. The rest of the team is pretty average, pretty solid, but not great. So I'm not going to rank them too high, but I do like them. I think they should put on a really good showing this year. I'm going to say number 5. Number 4, the Virginia Tech Hokies under coach James Franklin, who was fired after, I want to say, a 1-3 start, 1-4, something around there last season at Penn State. I think they ended up going 5-7 and missing a bowl game. It was not a great year for them. I will talk about Penn State and the exceptional Matt Campbell hire in the Big Ten video, but for now I'm going to talk about Virginia Tech. James Franklin's put one heck of a roster together in year 1. They got Ethan Grunkemeyer at QB. He was the backup for Drew Aller at Penn State, and he's coming with James Franklin to Blacksburg. They've got solid running backs, solid wide receivers. I also really like they've got a pair of great corners in White and Chadwick. Both have great stats. So overall, it's a really good team. I'm ranking them at number 4. I think they could really make some noise in this conference this year. At number 3, we got the Clemson Tigers, who are slowly climbing back to being in the top tier of the ACC where they belong. They got quarterback Christopher Vizina, who was the backup last year. He is expected to be the starter this season. I also really like TJ Moore, the wide receiver. Received 830 yards last season. On the defensive side, wow, I got a lot of players to list here. We got Will Helt, had 6 sacks. He was a defensive end. We got linebacker Sammy Brown, 107 tackles recorded last season. And 2 safeties, Corey Myrick with 91 tackles, and Jerome Carter III with 6 interceptions. All of that was in one season last year. All coached under Dabo Sweeney, who, despite taking some heat last season, is still probably one of the best coaches in college football. So I'm really excited to see what Clemson can do this year. I think they should be really good, could compete for a conference title, maybe even make a push for the playoffs. We'll see. Now, number 2, the Virginia Cavaliers, after long being the worse of the 2 teams in their rivalry with Virginia Tech, they have now really stepped it up as a program under Tony Elliott, who is one of my favorite coaches in college football. I really like what he's doing in Charlottesville. So Virginia's got an interesting situation at quarterback. They went with Bo Pribula over Eli Holstein. Eli Holstein, I've already talked about last season. He was the starter at the beginning of the year for Pittsburgh, and then had a rough couple games, got benched. Mason Heinschel came in and took over. Bo Pribula, on the other hand, transfers in from Mizzou. He was supposed to split snaps at the beginning of the season with Sam Horn, but Sam Horn in the season opening game against Central Arkansas was injured on the very first snap that he took in that game. It ended up being a season-ending injury, so Bo Pribula came in. And then Bo Pribula got hurt, and the guy named Matt Zollers came in, finished the season. I think Pribula may have played in the bowl game. I could be mistaken, though. And now Pribula transfers in and gets the starting job over Holstein in Virginia. I also really like the running backs and receivers. The defense all around is very solid. And, of course, I've already talked about Tony Elliott, one of the best coaches in the game, has really stepped this program up to the next level. So Virginia is definitely one of the best teams in this conference. But there's also the number 1. That is the Miami Hurricane. The Canes were national runner-ups last year with Carson Beck at quarterback. Didn't see that coming, if I can be completely honest with you. Now they've got Darian Mensah. The incoming transfer was at Tulane, then went to Duke. Threw for 3,973 yards last year and has now transferred into Miami. Going to be one of the best quarterbacks, I think, in college football. They also have returning running back Mark Fletcher, who rushed for 1,200 yards last year. Definitely really good. They've got 2,000 or more yard receiving wide receivers. And on the defensive side of the ball, they've got Damon Wilson, who had 9 sacks last season. Mohamed Toure, 84 tackles at linebacker. Really, my only concern is that the corners are maybe not as good as I would like. And, of course, Mario Cristobal at head coach, who has also brought Miami back to its former glory. They're, once again, a national championship contender. Playoff picks are not going to be the playoff picks, I believe, will come out the same week as the SEC video, 1 week before kickoff. So we'll get to that then. But I really love this Miami team, and I think they could really go places this season. With that said, let's get right into the picks. Starting in week 0, I already picked Florida State to beat New Mexico State in my CUSA video, and I also already picked Hawaii to beat Stanford in my Mountain West video. I think I'm going to stick with both of those, really. And then TCU, I'm even more confident picking over North Carolina. Virginia and NC State, I think this is being played in a weird location again this year. I want to say this is our Rio de Janeiro game. Why we have one of those, I don't know, but we have one. And I think I'm going to take Virginia in the neutral location. Doesn't that one also not count? Last year it didn't count as a conference game. But I'm assuming that's changing it, hopefully. Then Cal and UCLA. This one is subject to change. I am not completely sure about who I want to take in this pick. But for now, in the ACC video, I think I'm going to go with Cal. I'm not super high on UCLA. Again, I'll do more research on them. Big Ten video, that one might change. But I think I'm going with Cal. I already picked Duke over Tulane. SMU at Florida State, I think, I'm afraid, Tallahassee's well, I hear it's a tough place to play. In my experience, we found it pretty easy when we went down there a few years ago. But I guess I'll take it as a close game. By the way, the website I'm using, Pro Football Network, which is a great interface, great software. Highly recommend if you want to do something like this yourself. But it generates little scores. That's not me doing that. I just thought I'd give you the heads up there. So, I think 35-25 I don't find super inaccurate for that game, though. Then Georgia Tech at Colorado. It was a pretty good game last year. I think I'm going to take Georgia Tech to win again. Pittsburgh, I'll take over Miami, Ohio. Miami, I'm pretty sure, can handle Stanford on the road. And then Syracuse, Virginia Tech, both handle FCS opponents. Boston College at Cincinnati. I think I'm going to go with the Bearcats. Then Clemson and LSU was also a really good game last year. I don't know about LSU, but I think Clemson at least has stepped it up a little bit. I'm going with the Tigers. Then Louisville at Ole Miss. Again, Louisville seems to have a pretty high ceiling this year. And Ole Miss is not supposed to be great from what I've heard. And I also don't want to pick Ole Miss. I don't really want to pick Louisville either, but that rivalry hasn't happened in a long time. So I'm taking the Cardinals with teeth for some reason. I don't know if you know this. But the Louisville logo, if you'll notice, has teeth, as we can see right there. Also, if you didn't know, birds do not have teeth. So, yeah. Anyways, I'm taking Louisville. Week 2, Rutgers at Boston College. As a home game, I think I'm going to go with the Eagles, and I'll take Clemson over Georgia Southern. Tennessee and Georgia Tech's a trap game. I really think that's a trap game because Georgia Tech, well, I didn't rank them as highly this year as I would have last year. Last year, I was really high on them. I think I picked them to win the conference before the season. I just wasn't making YouTube videos then. This year, I think I'm still going to go with Georgia Tech, partially because I don't want to pick Tennessee, and partially because I do still think they're a really good team. And then we got a slew of FCS opponents here in week 2. That's going to be Louisville, Miami, NC State, SMU, North Carolina, Virginia, all handling their FCS opponents. Also, I feel like we can do better. Schedule better FCS teams. Yeah, chickens in the ACC. Then we got UCF at Pitt. I think I'm going to go with the Panthers here, even though I didn't rank them too highly. Then Syracuse versus Cal. These two teams are pretty even, but I think I'm going to go with the orange. And then Duke at Illinois, I'm probably going to take the Illini. And Purdue needs a win. I'm gonna pick them at home against Wake Forest. Then more FCS games. Boston College, Cal, Georgia Tech will all beat their FCS opponents. Then North Carolina and Clemson should be a pretty easy win for the Tigers. Duke and Stanford should be a pretty good game. I'm really not sure who to take here, but I think I'm going with Manny Diaz's Blue Devils. Then Louisville and SMU. SMU caused some trouble on the road last year, and I think I'm going to pick them to do it again. I think they're going to have a pretty good start, 4-0. And then Syracuse at Pittsburgh. I'm going to go with the Panthers. Virginia at home against West Virginia. I'm not going to sing it. I didn't sing it. There we go. I restrained myself. Miami at Wake Forest should be a win for the Canes. They might drop one, but I don't think it's going to be against the Demon Deacons. Then you got Virginia Tech at Maryland. Virginia Tech, again, looking so good this year. I'm going to go with the Hokies. Then Florida State at Alabama. That game was certainly something last year. If you'll remember, Florida State, we thought was back. Nope. Turns out that Mike Norvell was just angry and needed to win a game, and he won one. So good for you, Mike. Florida State and Alabama this year, I don't think will go so well for the Noles, especially since it's in Tallahassee. Then NC State and Vandy. I'm not too high on NC State this year. They look pretty average, and I don't know what Vanderbilt's gonna do without Diego Pavia, but I don't think they'll be complete trash again. Then Virginia Tech and Boston College. I'm gonna go with the Hokies on the road. Clemson, I'm gonna take over Cal. Then Duke and Florida State over FCS opponents. Also Pittsburgh will beat an FCS opponent. Then Louisville versus Wake Forest. I'm going to go with the Cardinals at home. I already picked these two games. I picked Miami to beat Central Michigan and North Carolina State to beat App State, as well as Virginia versus Delaware. I'm sticking with all three of those. And then three. And then Georgia Tech on the road against Stanford, which is an 0-4 start for the singular Cardinal. Then Miami at Clemson. I said they were going to drop one, and you know what? They're going to drop one. I'm taking Clemson for a 5-0 start. Sweeney's Tigers are looking really good at Week 5. Then Virginia at Florida State. I think I'm going to go with Virginia on the road. Also a really good start for them. I just really don't think I think Tony Elliott's team's generally pretty disciplined, and I don't think they're going to drop one like that. Then Louisville at NC State. I'm going to go with Louisville on the road, then SMU at home. Notre Dame is going to absolutely shellac North Carolina. The Notre Dame video should be out now, by the way. You can go check that out when you're done with this if you want to. Then Pittsburgh at Virginia Tech. I'm going to go with the Hokies at home, so also a 5-4 start for 5-4. That's how do you what 5-0 start for Virginia Tech. Then Stanford at Wake Forest. Probably going to be a win for Wake Forest. Syracuse already picked to beat UConn. I'm sticking with that. And I picked Cal to lose to UNLV in my Mountain West video. Then in Week 6, we got Virginia Tech with a win on the road against Cal. Georgia Tech at home against Duke. Florida State on the road against Louisville. Should probably be a win for the Cardinals. Then Wake Forest and NC State. I don't know why, but I'm feeling Wake Forest for this game. It's a sort of rivalry game, I guess. All the North Carolina schools who are in the same conference, I guess. They have a rivalry square. They should have one of the. I guess a trophy like the Commander's Cup or Michigan MAC wouldn't work with 4 teams. It would just be a tie half the time. Then North Carolina at Pittsburgh. I'm gonna go with Pitt. I'm just really not high on Bill Belichick's Tar Heels. I wouldn't suggest it, but can you fire Bill Belichick? That's like saying after. Let's say Tom Brady's still in the NFL today. Let's say he's still playing, and he just threw a season where his touchdown ratio to interceptions was 2-3. Can you let go of Tom Brady? Can you release him from his contract, make him a free agent? I don't know if you can, because on the one hand he's not performing well. On the other hand, he's Tom Brady. He's one of, if not the best, who's ever done it. So I feel like North Carolina is facing the same situation here. They've got one of the best coaches who has ever coached football, but he's not doing well. I mean, really, if this, I would give him this year or next year. But if next year doesn't go well, it might be time to let him go. Then Syracuse at Virginia. I'm going to go with the Cavaliers for a 6-0 start, and Notre Dame should blow Stanford out of the water. Then Pittsburgh and Boston College. I'm feeling an upset here. I think Boston College at home, they like to play spoilers sometimes. I'm going with the Eagles. Wake Forest at Cal will be a win for the ridiculously good Jaron Kiawe, Sagapolu offense and the ridiculously bad defense that they have. And then Clemson versus Charleston Southern. Don't know why you're playing FCS opponents in Week 6, but Stanford's doing it too. Then Duke and North Carolina should be a win. Is it still the Tobacco Road rivalry in football? I don't know if it is. I don't think it is. I'm taking Duke either way. Then Florida State and Miami should be a win for the Canes. Virginia at SMU feels like one that's going to get dropped for Virginia, which means a 6-0 start for SMU. It's just, the game's at home. So I'm taking the Mustangs. Then Louisville at Syracuse. I'm feeling the orange here. I think they can get that upset at home. And then Ramblin' Wreck at Virginia Tech. That's going to be a really good matchup. Circle that one, folks. That's going to be a good one. But I think I'm going with the Yellow Jackets. I'm going to take them on the road against Virginia Tech. And then I'm going to take Virginia Tech on the road against Clemson. Somebody's got to beat them. Why not James Franklin? Then Georgia Tech at home, Miami at home, SMU at home. Stanford's going to beat an FBS opponent eventually. I'm going to take them to beat NC State. And then I'm going to take Syracuse on the road, knocking North Carolina out of bowl contention. And Virginia at home against Duke, a rematch of last season's national championship, maybe a bit of a revenge opportunity for Tony Elliott and the gang. Then Boston College Duke will be a win for the Blue Devils. Clemson. Do I pick them to drop 2 in a row against Florida State? Because that feels like a trap game. I don't think I am. I think that one's a win for Clemson. Then Louisville versus Stanford will be a win. Stanford no longer going to a bowl game, or has the potential to go to a bowl game, California at North Carolina State is probably going to be a win for Dave Doeren and the Wolfpack. Georgia Tech at Pittsburgh. I feel like I'm going to take Pitt at home. So I just don't see anyone in this conference going undefeated. But SMU, I think, can hold off Syracuse on the road. I'm going to pick them to go 8-0. North Carolina is not going to beat Miami. And Virginia, they might lose that one. I could see them losing to Wake Forest. I believe that game went into double overtime. Wake Forest went into double overtime with someone really good last year. I think it was Virginia. I think I'm going with Virginia, though. I think that time they're going to get it done. Wake Forest will beat Merrimack. And then Boston College at Florida State. Yeah, I think I'm going to go with Florida State here on the road. I just don't think they're bad enough to go 2-7. Then Louisville at Georgia Tech is probably going to be a win for the Yellow Jackets. Duke, I'll take on the road against NC State. No, I won't. I'm taking NC State. Never mind. And Virginia Tech on the road against SMU is a really good opportunity for, I guess, an upset, even though I ranked Virginia Tech higher in my power rankings. I think I'm going with the Hokies. Then Clemson at Syracuse will be a win for Clemson. I already picked UConn to beat North Carolina. And then Miami at Notre Dame. Oh, wow. Notre Dame has something to prove because last season Miami kept them out of the national tournament. That's the wrong sport. Out of the college football playoff. And look, Notre Dame has been getting memed for their bad schedule, their really weak schedule. They still play Miami and SMU, who you could make a very solid argument are the two best teams in the ACC. But at home, I don't think Notre Dame drops this one in front of touchdown Jesus. I don't see it happen. I'm taking the Irish. And then week 11, we've got Georgia Tech and Clemson. That's a really good game. That is a really good game. I really want to watch that one. But I think I'm going to pick Clemson for now just because it's at home. That home field advantage can be everything in a tight game like that. I'm going to take Miami at home against Duke. I'm going to take North Carolina State. I'm taking NC State at home against Syracuse. Florida State on the road against Pitt. I don't think they go out just yet. Then Wake Forest at SMU. I guess I'm going with SMU for a 9-1 start. And then Louisville at UNC. Probably going to be a win for the Cardinals. Virginia at home against Cal. I'm going to take Virginia Tech at home against Stanford. And Notre Dame for the win against Boston College. Week 12, you got Syracuse at Boston College. That's a good one. Is Boston College worse enough to lose at home? I think they are. I kind of think they are. Their defense is just not exciting for me. And Stanford versus Cal, rivalry game. This year, I think Cal is just that much better. I'm going with the Golden Bears to win again. The game, it's Bear territory, all right? I don't think they lose this one. Then Clemson at Duke will give Clemson a 10-1 start. NC State, Florida State, I'm going to take it home. They're going to make a last-second push for a bowl game. I believe I picked them to win, 3 straight? When's the last time I picked them to lose? I picked them 1, 2, 3. Yeah, I picked them on a 3-game win streak. So that is interesting. Then Georgia Tech at home against Wake Forest. Wake Forest will not be going bowling this season, unfortunately. Louisville, I feel like, no, they're not going to drop one to Pitt. I'm taking the Cardinals. Then Miami at home against Virginia Tech is going to be a win for the Canes. Virginia is going to knock North Carolina down to 1-10. And SMU against Notre Dame just doesn't seem like one that the Irish drop. I don't think SMU is good enough to get the win. Looking at Notre Dame this year. Now, in week 13, last week going into it, we've got a 4-way tie for first place in the conference. You got Clemson, SMU, Virginia, and Miami all have only one loss. So, let's see. Pittsburgh at Cal. I think I'm going to go with Pitt to go 7-5. Cal will finish 4-8. Clemson versus South Carolina, always a good rivalry game. I think this year Clemson has the upper hand. I didn't rank them number 3 for nothing. I'm going to go with the Clemson Tigers to finish 11-1. Florida at Florida State, always a good rivalry game. But it's not in the swamp. Honestly, I'm going with the Noles here. I think they can finally get something good, go to a bowl game, and hopefully Mike Norvell doesn't get fired. And then Miami at home against Boston College. I know. By the way, that all the Florida State fans are up in arms against Mike Norvell, but that's my coach, man. I don't want him to get fired. Please don't fire Mike Norvell, Florida State. SMU against Stanford. I guess I got to go with SMU. So they're also going to be 8-1. Notre Dame against Syracuse. I don't think Notre Dame's dropping one of the Qs this year. 6-6 finish for them. Totally respectable. NC State for a bowl game. North Carolina will finish 1-11. And I'm not the AD, but that might signal that it's time for Bill Belichick to go, if my prediction is correct. Virginia at Virginia Tech is a great game because Virginia is so good. But so is Virginia Tech, and the game is in Blacksburg. I'm going with the Hokies. I think they can do it. And then you got Duke and Wake Forest. I think it's going to be a Duke win on the road. I think they're going to a bowl game. Georgia Tech and Georgia, always good, but I think this year it goes to the Dogs. If they had a chance, it was last year, and they couldn't get it done. Although it's been really close the last 2 games, so maybe they'll surprise me. And then Louisville at Kentucky, also going to go with Louisville. And now, the conference championship. I'd talk about the teams for a long time, but the video's already running long. And frankly, I don't think SMU is at all a match for Miami. I'm taking the Canes to finish 11-2. And probably clinch a spot in the college football playoff. So that's it for the ACC video. It is 4 weeks to season kickoff. Notre Dame video is out now. We got Big 12 next week. Week after that, we got Big 10. And then 1 week before the season, we've got SEC and playoff picks. Those will be out then. That'll do it for this week. We'll see you next week for the Big 12.